Hello everyone, my name is Halvey. In this video I'm going to do a little analysis of the trailer for Fire Emblem Engage. The trailer starts out zooming in on this mural and we can see 12 past Fire Emblem characters. I'm not going to name them all because other people have already and it's pretty obvious who they are. Then we zoom into the map of the continent Elios, which has 4 nations surrounding one holy nation in the middle. Not much else is really known about these areas, although some areas are shown off later on in the trailer in maps and in gameplay. But we do have like a standard rocky area, like a green pasture area, a desert area, and what seems to be maybe like a snowy region, and then the Holy Land in the center, surrounded by like a dark ring of land. That black ring around the Holy Land looks to be like where the antagonists of the game, the main antagonists of the game, probably live or reside or from. Judging by the orange and red cracks on the land are very similar to the red and orange cracks that we see on an enemy that we'll see later in the trailer called the Corrupted. Then we just get a look at the Fell Dragon of this game. I'm not sure if it has anything to do with Grima as of yet, because they don't look similar at all. Then we see a closer look at some of the heroes, or some of the emblems as they're called. Leaf, Roy, and Lynn. They also have, you can see their rings. They're wearing their rings. Each of them has a different colored gem in the middle. And then we pan out to see more of Leaf, Celica, and other emblems fighting what seem to be probably the Corrupted from 1,000 years ago. And you can see they have that reddish orange like cracks in them. But nothing much else to see really. Other than I will mention we can see Yune with Micaiah. Then we get a look at the hero from 1,000 years ago who defeated the Fell Dragon, and we can see that he is wearing Marth's ring. That is what Marth's rings look like. Marth's ring looks like, and we can see that this is the main character, Alir, because not by the sword, because it is a different sword, which is strange, but it is the shoes that are pretty much the same as Alir's shoes that we'll see later on in the trailer. And I think it also is confirmed that the main character was the one who defeated the dragon 1,000 years ago and has just been sleeping for 1,000 years and is now being woken up as the Fell Dragon is being resurrected soon. So nothing much else to say about this part of the trailer, as it's just, these look just like regular people to me. But then we get a look at what I would say is the human form of the Fell Dragon of this game. You can tell by the ears that this is definitely a Manakete. The headpiece looks like the brand or the symbol of Duma. It's similar, but this guy has a lot more spikes on his headpiece. And the third eye also resembles Duma, although this one's much smaller. This scene, I would say, is very early on in the game, where Alir first gets Marth's ring. But this here is a completely different cutscene to me, because as we can see later, he doesn't seem to have the ring, and he also just has an iron sword. But this is definitely early on in the game though. Then this is a completely different scene again. As we can see, he has his liberation sword, Can't tell if he has a Mars ring or not, but he probably does, considering what area we're at, which we'll see later on in the gameplay. This seems to be like kind of early, but not like around chapter 2 or 3ish. And we see the dragon girl, who we'll see later on at the end of the trailer. But I would say that dragon girl is what is the same dragon as this one here, only she has a dragon in a human form, but I'm pretty sure it's the same character. Then we cut into this scene, which this scene to me, also quick, we can see by his shoes that is very much the shape of that silhouette from earlier of the guy who slayed the dragon in the past. So it's definitely, this is definitely like the same character as that. We can also see in this scene he has Mars ring, or just a ring. It's hard to tell exactly whose ring that is, but I would assume it's Mars ring. But I don't know really what the context of this scene is. I would say that it could be just like a intro to the game, like intro cutscene, along with all of this scene. This just very looks like an intro. Whenever you boot up the game, this is what you'll see. This is the intro cutscene that you'll see, because we get a look at all the scene to be like the main cast. We'll go back to the red-haired boy who wields a sword, what seems to be like a flaming sword. I would assume he'll probably be using Roy's ring, which we'll see later on. This girl also has a ring. We can see right there, you can see on her left hand, which is where all the rings are supposed to be worn, I guess, on your ring finger on your left hand. And then we also see Alfred here, who we'll see later on. He does not seem to be wearing a ring, but it's hard to say with this angle. And then we get a look at this mage girl, who also does not seem to be wearing a ring, but it's hard to tell by the lighting. But we don't really know much else about any of those other characters. For Alfred, we know a good bit about so far, or at least he's shown off more. Then we cut to a scene where it seems to be a continuation of a scene from earlier, where he grabbed the ring and then he probably uses it right away to summon Marth. This just seems to be like a standard summoning scene that we'll see by probably every Emblem character in the game, all 12 of them, if that's how many there are in total. Because it seems like this kind of seems definitely like it in the story, judging by where Marth is located here. This is like that Holy Land where the main character first awakens at. Next we get a look at some more characters. The girl in the red is From, I think. And then it looks like, this is where Alir is being woken up in probably the very beginning of the game. And then it seems like immediately you're going to be attacked by these corrupted, is what they're called. And then we see here the little boy and the girl and presumably the old man as well, are considered like guardians of the divine dragon, which is what Alir is a divine dragon. So then we can see the girl wields a staff, the boy wields magic, but we can also see later on that the girl is also able to fight with like a gauntlets, or they're called something else later on we'll see, but it's basically like a mixed martial arts type of fighting. So this right here is they're cutting to a completely different chapter and location. This is the same location as the southwest land that has the windmills. But we get a good look at what the gameplay could look like here. We can see that Alir is a dragon child class, which is I'm guessing the slash dragon means it's the sub type, because we can see later that it'll have dragon. We'll see cavalry, we'll see something called backup, we'll see right here. We can see this corrupted is a lance fighter, and it's called, and then subclass or subtype is backup. Not really sure what that could mean, but we can also get a look at other characters. In the top right, we can see what looks, there are definitely two characters there. We can see a full view of an armor knight whose name is Lewis, and the other character you can barely see, but if you look on the minimap you can also barely see that there's two characters there, two blue dots. I think that character is Chloe, the Pegasus Knight that we see later on. And then we also see Vander, who we'll see later, Fram, and the Mage Boy. We also see Alfred, and then the Mage Girl with Celica is Celine, and then the Archer is Etty, and then an unknown axe fighter that we never see elsewhere. But we can also see that we have Marth equipped on Alfred, Sigurd is equipped on the boy with the tome, and Celica is equipped on Celine, who we always see Celica equipped with. Another thing I noticed is that we can see as soon as we approach this enemy, his HP bar is already like being shown to go down, as if it's, you know, telling you, you know, this is how much damage you'll do to this guy. And then as soon as we like lock on to this guy, we can see Elir's health bar as well going down on the map because of the counterattack that he'll be taking here. This is just standard UI then here. It's showing like a turn order that Elir will attack first at 10 damage, then get counterattacked for 6, then do another 10 as a follow-up attack, but that's pretty standard there. But then we see in the UI in the battle animations how we have 10 and then 10, not like 10 times 2. I'm guessing this is just to showcase like the turn order, but I'm not quite sure. And obviously we can see here that the weapon triangle is back, as the corrupted here has an advantage over the sword. Then we just see pretty much a full round of combat here, but it cuts off before anything else. We don't see like any experience being gained or anything like that. Then we cut to what I would assume is the prologue chapter. This is, I mean, because we only have 2 playable units here, Elir and Vander, and we can see Fram and the boy up at the top are green units. That's interesting there, why they're just green units and not like playable in this chapter, in the prologue it seems like. Again, we can see Vander, as he approaches this enemy, the health bar is already showing that it'll be, you know, where it'll be after combat, even well before he even reaches the guy, which we'll see even later on, like pretty much every time we see any combat or moving around the map. And then it's just pretty much a quick scene here. Also, notice how this enemy is obviously a corrupted, but he's known as question mark here, which leads me to believe this is the prologue, and we just don't have a name for this enemy yet. And we can also see these corrupted also look different, but it just could be their class, their axe fighter class. Then we see back to the windmill chapter. We can see Etty attacking a Pegasus Knight, and quick notice you can barely make it out, but there's like a flyer icon and a check mark on the flyer, and we don't see that anywhere else. Even if there's other flyers on the map, we don't see that flyer icon with a check mark. So I assume that's only just to show that if you click or if you select Etty on and then like move her around the map, it'll just show you that icon that she's effective against this type of enemy. And it looks to me just like it's standard, probably triple effective might on the weapon, on effective weapons, so you can just one-shot that Pegasus Knight. And then here we have a look at From, who is the staff user, as well as she's using this kind of mixed martial arts move called Iron Body Arts. I'm assuming this is just like an iron version of whatever this new weapon type is. We can see that she has a 6x2 in the battle screen or forecast screen. This is showing to me that this is going to be a consecutive attack, like a brave effect, as what, you know, gauntlets have been, or like fist fighting has been like in past games, or just 3 houses, I guess. He's also fighting an illusion soldier, which is like the only other type of enemy we get in this trailer. So I'm not quite sure where these illusion guys are from really on the map. It's like hard to tell. They might not be from any location specific in general. They could just be like a undercut, or they could be like the Black Fang, and they could just be like assassins from that work, you know, all over the world. Because we see when we're fighting against them throughout different locations. Like this location looks to be like probably the castle of that windmill area, and this is completely different. This is like a bridge that leads to that rocky northwest area. But we got to look at this Lewis guy, who's most likely an armor knight. And the thing is about this break mechanic, I'm not really sure what it's doing. We can see it's kind of like breaking some kind of shield. So I don't know if like there is like a defensive stance that you can end your turn with, possibly. I'm not sure. And if only in this break mechanic is required, or you have to have a certain skill or just a weapon triangle advantage to do this effect. Then we got to look at Chloe, the Payas Knight. These numbers are really off, like they're different from the Japanese version of the trailer, but we can just see criticals do triple damage like normal. But the one thing I noticed is this thief wielding a hammer, and it's green, so I guess that might indicate that it's just droppable, or it could be that it's forged. I don't know. Like green has been shown to be like either it's droppable or it's forged. Then we go back to just a scene. This probably takes place before or after Marth was summoned in that other scene. And then we get a look at what I would think would be like a battle prep menu, but I'm not quite sure about that. We can notice a lot of things here. We can see stats that are, you know, normal stats. One thing I want to make note of is that the rating is including that BLD stat, which I would assume to be build, but that is included in the rating, so that's interesting there. But there's nothing much else to make note of here, other than we can tell how strong this liberation sword is. It only has 6 might, it seems, so I'm assuming it probably is going to be much like the Yato and the Falchion in Awakening, that it'll be upgraded throughout the story, or just at least one time throughout the story, to have like more might. 6 might, that's probably, I'm assuming the Iron Sword probably has 5 might or something. So that 6 might's not really gonna cut it for the rest of the entire game. And there is no sign of weapon durability or even item durability in this right here. So I don't know, like considering that I can't imagine vulneraries being unlimited use, so it could just be that weapon durability is in this game, but it's just not shown in this screen because this screen has only to do with emblem rings and nothing else. But there's this thing called bond level, which is probably works like support. The more you equip rings on different characters, they will have their bond level will increase if the more times you like enter combat, I guess. Another thing is we can see the emblem rings. We can see Marth and Sigurd, but we can also see that there are 3 other pages that you can cycle through, it seems like. So I'm not really sure what else that could be. I mean, at this point in the game, it looks like there also is Celica was also a ring that we have. What's seen at this point in the game, it seems like. So I would assume that maybe Celica is just not compatible with Alir. We also see that Marth has skills and his rapier. It seems like probably the higher your bond level is, the more weapons and skills that Marth will have or give you. But we can see his skills: Perceptive, Break Defenses, Divine Speed, and Low-Star Rush. Later on we'll see Divine Speed being used, and later we'll see Perceptive as well. Perceptive seems to just be like Nihil. So then he equips, also another thing is just equipping different rings will give you different stat bonuses. They could be just, it's hard to tell if they'll be like the stat bonuses also will increase with bond level. I would assume they would. But then the problem is we cut to this from this screen to this screen is a completely different is like it doesn't match up with Alir's level here. He's level 4 here, but level 5 here, and some other stats are different. So I don't know why they chose to show that like that. But moving on, we can see that Alir and Marth together they're sharing their skills. Don't think they're sharing their weapon though. I don't think he can use the rapier like this, but he can use what seems to be perceptive and break defenses. The other two skills are grayed out. I can assume that's because of a mechanic we'll see later on. But again, we look at I want to make note of the ring that is around Marth here, and Celica as well. If you look over at Celica to the left, the weird thing about this ring is it doesn't really seem to be. I can't really tell what it is for, because if we play this back and forth, we can see that ring is like pulsating. It's being filled in and it's empty, and it's being filled in, and Celica's doing the same thing over on the other side at like the same rate. They're just like pulsating, being filled in and not being filled in. So I don't really know what that's supposed to mean. Again, we can see as soon as Alir is approaching this archer here, we can see its health bar is just getting depleted. So forecasting that you can one round this guy. We can do the same thing with this axe fighter here. As soon as we're approaching him, you can see that we're going to one round him. Another thing is, look at the axe fighter's axe symbol. Right at the beginning here, it has this like no sign. This circle with the cross, at least in like traffic, is like considered like a prohibited sign, like do not do this. So I don't know what that means, if that has to do with whatever maybe the break is, because as soon as we equip Marth here, I guess we'll get access to that break defenses skill, and then we can see in combat the break defensive skill doesn't like activate, it doesn't look like, but we do the break. So I'm wondering if that, because I think later on we also see that like circle sign again, but like it's just as soon as we equip Marth and start moving, that sign goes away. But and then we can see that they just cut out the battle forecast, I would assume, because I guess they don't want to show everything, or they do that a lot in this trailer. It seems like they cut things out that they don't want us to see, or that they just wanted to shorten the trailer as much as possible. But we can see here at the bottom we're doing 13, 6, and then 13. I would assume that this 6 is most likely a follow-up attack from Marth, as in like pair up, because the health bar before we enter combat forecast that we're going to one round this guy. But if we just do like 13 times 2, that's not going to one round him. So that 6 must be like a follow-up attack from Marth, but then it just cuts out before we can see any more. Then we go back to the Emblem ring equip screen, and Alfred is equipping Sigurd. Pretty much the same stuff here. We can see that the Iron Lance will have 7 might, and we can see Alfred has, I also didn't notice, but we also have like personal skills, most likely. Alfred here has self-improver. Then Sigurd has a Rider's Bane, which is what he starts out at probably. He also has Canter, Gallop, and Override. I'm assuming Canter is just Canto. And then Gallop and Override. Override we'll see later on. But since they only have a level 1 bond here, we can assume that this is like the minimum. These are just the starting skills. But then again, this screen is just taking place at a completely different time than what this scene it cuts into is. So right quick here, we can see the same thing happening with those circles around the emblem characters. They are pulsating, so I just don't know what that could mean. We also see if you look at the top left, we see skill effects with some skill with a flower. We'll see later on that this is Celine's personal skill. I would assume that this skill is probably similar to like Rose's Thorns and like Lily's Poise from Fates for Elise's and Camilla's personal skills that like will give you buffs or to your like defense or your attack whenever you're like within 2 spaces of Celine here, it seems like, because when we're on this stair tile, it's in effect, but then we go away more than 2 spaces away and it's not in effect anymore. Then once we're getting within 2 spaces again, we can see it's active again. This is pretty cool. I think that it's for showing you what like passive skills and whatnot could be in effect. We also get our best look at these glowing blue rings that we see throughout maps. From what I can tell, they don't show up on the mini map, and they look just like, I would assume, to be like event tiles from like Awakening and like the Spears of the Fallen thing in 3 Houses, where if you step on one you can get a item like an Awakening or like a boost to experience or weapon level, but it's really impossible to tell. But the way they're positioned in this chapter, I thought they could be like warp tiles, but since there's the way they're spread out in other maps, they just wouldn't really make sense. So I just have no clue what these could be. We can also see that this is a defense chapter. From what it looks like, there's those 5 squares at the top that are glowing red. It looks just like a defense chapter in other Fire Emblem games, like especially in Fates. Also, I didn't make note of, but we can see that villages are returning in that previous windmill chapter. But then what more things we can see here, we can see another tome user who we haven't seen before, another archer, and another sword user that has Roy equipped. I think that sword user with the Roy equipped is the red-haired boy from the earlier on in the trailer. He has this cape. He's grayed out, so we can't really tell what color the cape is and his hair color. But my guess is that it's the red-haired guy. And this seems to be a pretty later, like a chapter 6, 7-ish, because we have Alfred here level 9. And we can see he has a bond level 10 than with Sigurd, and he has access to a lot more skills. We see that a momentum skill that we'll see later, and as well as that greenish one with the horse. I don't know what that could be. But we see that Override and Gallop are grayed out here, and we'll get into that later. And we can see that Sigurd's weapons are the Rider's Bane and what could be like a spear or maybe a silver lance, but they're both grayed out because of something we'll see later. And we can also see Alfred has an iron lance equipped, but he also has what is likely a javelin, because we can see he has 1 to 2 range as he's moving here. But it's interesting here how even as he's approaching, I mean obviously they're cut out a lot here. I don't think it's gonna flow like right into battle like this, cut straight into battle. They're definitely cutting out like the battle forecast and stuff like that. But here we can see that Alfred is activating momentum here. I have no idea what it could do, but it does inflict break on this guy and breaks his shield, I guess. But the problem is that we didn't see, like, as he's approaching this guy, the guy doesn't have that red circle on his sword icon. But we can see that if this battle would have continued, most likely that guy would have gotten back up, picked his weapon back up, and then attacked 1 damage twice in a row to finish the round of combat. Because we can see he's obviously getting back up, so I don't think the break mechanic is like disarming the guy and like just making it so he won't counterattack. But we don't know. But he's definitely getting back up here, so I really don't know what the break could be. Other than he's breaking, there is some kind of defense formation that you can end your turn as. And depending on circumstances, you can inflict the break and break the guy's shield. Because we're not doing any extra damage here. But there is some kind of shield being broken, like in Smash Bros. When you break a guy's shield. We can also see from those banners that this is most likely taking place in that castle in the northwest part of the map. And this is probably like the latest chapter that we see in the trailer. Like I would assume this will be chapter 6 or 7, something like that. Then we cut into what looks like to be the hub area for this game, the Garrick Mach of this game, but it looks more like, and it seems to me like it'll probably operate more like My Castle and Fates more than like Garrick Mach. But we can see in the minimap that we have fishing is back, we have an armory, probably a smithy, an item shop, and an accessory shop, and some kind of gateway or something in the center there. We can also see that there are the dots on the minimap probably represent people that you can interact with, but in the actual thing here we can only see Marth, but it seems like, but there should be like other characters representing the other dots, but we can't see them, so I don't know what's up with that. Also, it seems like Marth has a text or a speech bubble on where he's at there, but on the minimap there doesn't look to be like a speech bubble, so I don't know what's going on here. Next, we just get a look at the item shop. The lady running it has a text bubble above her, so we can also, and we cut into a farm or something maybe. We can see some sparkles over by that dog. It's weird how that dove has a speech bubble above it, as well as this ram, or maybe it's not a ram, maybe it's some special animal from this world, but it also looks like there's a speech bubble behind that. So some way to interact with animals in this game, it looks like. Then we get a look at the smithy here run by County, and we get a look at the accessory shop, or just a menu to choose what accessories you have, because I don't see any like prices by these outfits, so it doesn't look, so I would assume that this might just be an equip screen, not the accessory shop itself. Then we have Alfred here. I don't know what he's really doing. He looks like he's running some kind of diner maybe. There's glasses, plates, so don't know what, just more, it looks like from a skill we'll see later on, it looks like there could be some kind of dining hall mechanic. Then we get a look at what the mechanic is that is going to be known as engage. It seems like Alir here and Marth are going to merge into one, and we get access to the divine speed skill, which is apparently going to be like a special attack that you can perform when you engage. We're also using Mercurius, so I'm guessing their bond level has gone up. The biggest question here is like why there's a 10 and then 21 and 21 when it seems obvious that the first attack we're doing here is the 21. Also, whenever we're engaged in this form, it seems like enemies cannot counter us, so it's really just like a special move that seems to be pretty overpowered if we look later on a little later on here. So we don't really see, this is just the animation, we don't really see what effects this has on in the map, like we'll see with Alfred's override here. So he merged with Sigurd, obviously, engaged with Sigurd, and then he's performing this special attack called override, which seems to be pretty powerful. Here he does 20 damage to finish off that first axe fighter there, and then cuts right through a second enemy and performs momentum, which kills that guy. So killing two enemies in one move like that seems pretty powerful. We also get a look at that ring changes here around Sigurd, and there's a 3, so we'll touch on that later. Just know that this seems pretty overpowered, and also we can see that this second enemy that dies might be holding on to an item that drops, but we don't really see what it is because it cuts away too fast. And also looks like this could be really later on in the game, because we're in what I would assume that a northeastern nation that has the volcano and like what looks to be snow, or maybe could be like ash from the volcano. Then we cut to Celine, who is engaging with Celica, and we can see here that they have a bond level of 10, and we can see on that there other times we've seen if it's Celine and like Celica or Alir and Marth, we see them as separate, but here we see, since they're engaged, we see them as one person because they're fused together, I guess. We can see that she now has access to Celica's weapons, those two, that book, and that's what I would assume to be a staff, because we can see on our icon here that, or as on our like unit model, that she has a sword and a staff equipped. So I would assume that Celica gives Celica's weapons would include a tome, which we'll see as Ragnarok, and a staff. We can also see that Celine here is a noble, and her subclass is mystical. So I don't know if that means like just a magic units are called mystical in this game, and like there will be like effective weapons against mages potentially. We can also see, we've seen it before, but her speed seems to be she seems to be losing speed from possibly the build and like weapon weight mechanic that could be back. And then we see her personal skill is that green flower icon that I was mentioned earlier. And then she has access to all 5 of Celica's skills here. So we can't really tell which ones which would be grayed out. But I want to note that skill in the middle, the one with a plate, a fork, and a knife, that's an interesting skill, I think, that could have something to do with the hub world, or the My Castle world. But we can't really tell what all these skills are though, because the icons don't look like anything else we've seen. Aside from the second one there, the gray book with the lines, I mean the lines resemble like a rally skill, but other than that I don't know what these could be. But her special attack here seems to be like some kind of warping spell. She can warp to what seems to be just a lot, like pretty far away, but still limited, as we can see here at the end. You can see in the bottom left there's an enemy there, but it doesn't seem like we can warp to it, so this warp does have like a limited range, not like the entire map. We can also see that 2 of these enemies here drop items, what seems to be like, but we can see where she's heading. It looks like this is an AoE attack. From what we can see here, you notice the health bars on the enemies, and especially noted here, like within 2 tiles of her in all angles, it seems to be an AoE attack that does full damage to everyone in this range. And we'll see that later on here too, when she finally actually moves and attacks. We'll see with these 2. Look at the health bars. She's going to one-shot that armor knight, and then that axe fighter is going to be just, looks like maybe barely alive with 1 HP. We can see here she's going to do 36 damage and one-shot the armor knight. And if that's like an axe fighter, that it would make sense that he would have more HP than the armor knight. So it seems like it's an area of effect attack within 2 squares all around her that does a set like crazy amounts of damage here. So like when I saw this, this looks really overpowered. Obviously we don't see eventually the effects that this has after this fight, but we see it's just a special animation for this. The guy, even though we're attacking at 1 range, he doesn't counterattack, as we've seen with other special attacks. But yeah, just a massive attack that is definitely going to kill him, but it just cuts away before we can see or anything else really. Notice that 1 skill is in effect for this fight, so I don't know what that could be. But yeah, but back to this screen, I want to make note of, see how you can see all of our emblems that we have here. We have Celica, Micaiah, Marth, and Roy, and they're all engaged because of that number. My guess is that the number indicates how many turns you have left in this engaged form, because we can see the 3 as Celine just transformed this turn. We can see it's a 3, and then the others are a 2, so I would assume that they've been in their engaged form last turn, and this is their second turn with it. However, this special attack seems to be the most overpowered compared to the other 2. Although we didn't really see the effects of Allier's and Marth's special move. We only saw a combat animation for it. But and then person who's merged with Roy there, it's hard to make out who it could be. It's just a sword unit, that's all we know. Also, notice you can see little arrows indicating some units have buffs. So buffs in some way are returning. Also, we see that this special move, or maybe just the magic, cost Celine here 1 HP, which seems strange that something this overpowered just costs 1 HP, but we'll see how it turns out in the final game. Then we get a look at, that's the last of the gameplay I think we see. We get a look at some red-haired general or king. It's hard to really tell if this is an enemy or like an antagonist in the game because we don't see like any corrupted with him. The guys are wearing red as opposed to the illusion soldiers that were wearing green. I would assume this to be the father of the red-haired boy, so I don't know if like we're like turning against this guy or if he is maybe an ally. Then we get a closer look at the dragon girl from earlier on in the trailer. We can see she's probably dragon girl because she looks like she probably has pointed ears and like some kind of like feathers looking. Then we see a scene of what looks to be some evil sorcerer, like a Garneth archetype, putting on a ring that is glowing purple, which seems to indicate that past villains will be returning in the same way that the hero characters are returning. So the biggest question is if there's only going to be one villain returning, perhaps Garneth, or if like maybe every boss of each chapter has a ring. We aren't able to tell if that the red-haired guy here has a ring on. It's impossible. The angles just don't allow us to see. But then we see what I would assume to be that red-haired guy's army. We can get a better look at his banner and his emblem, but that we don't see anywhere else in the trailer. But it has like a skull and crossbones kind of look, only with swords, and I don't know what really could be in the middle. But I would assume this battle is taking place in that northeastern country with the volcano, and it's that other army is impossible to make out, but maybe it could be that illusion army that so this guy could be an ally. Then this scene I would also include in that it's probably not like an endgame cutscene. This is probably like just part of the intro, the opening cutscene of the game when you boot up the game. All Fire Emblem games have like that intro cutscene when you boot up the game. But we can also get a look at the red-haired guys here and just the other Alfreds there and the two girls from the other scene along with Alir. Then this scene of just Marth and Alir pushing open this door. Don't really know what this could represent. Could be nothing, could be a cutscene in the game. Then we get a look at pretty much just the box art. We see those red-haired guy and the two girls and Alfred. They're probably the most prominent nobles from like the Four Nations, I would assume. And it's also confirmed basically that Alir is just going to be like a Shez avatar. You choose between the boy or the girl and you just pick a name. So I'm assuming that like the main character here will be referred to as like my friend and like stuff that they did with Shez. But that's pretty much all I have to say about the trailer, aside from I do have some ideas for some theories for the game that I'll make into separate videos. But I can't wait to play this game. I'll always be excited for a new Fire Emblem game, and it's really not that far off. So let me know what your thoughts are in the comments, and if you like the video, like and subscribe, and have a great rest of your day.